Hello, everybody, and welcome to our presentation today. I am here with Patricia Alyan-Lehman. Hi, Patricia. So wonderful.
Hi, Jocelyn.
And yes, we have so much beautiful information to share with you. We can't wait to get started. And I welcome everybody here on Zoom to go ahead and put your name and location into the chat so that we can see who's on and where you're zooming in from. And then while you're doing that, I'm going to go live on YouTube here. So give me just a moment. And happy Lionsgate, everybody. This is such a powerful portal that we're in right now. Okay, there we go. We're live on YouTube as well. I'm just going to make sure my audio turns out right here. Go. Okay, good. All right. Live on YouTube as well. Awesome. So let me start. Let me start back at the beginning. So we are here, Patricia and I are here to present to you today, The Lion's Gate in Ancient Egypt, a portal to awakening our infinite potentials. And hi, Patricia, welcome.
Hi, Jocelyn. Good to see you again.
Yeah, I'm always so excited to speak with you and receive your wisdom about Egypt and
likewise
many related topics. So yeah, it's wonderful to be here with you. And let me just say hi to everybody who's putting their names in the chat. Hi, Janine in the UK. Hi, Stephen in Vermont. Rita in Florida. Janet in Puerto Rico. Barb in Canada. Stephen in Los Angeles. Elena in Virginia. Benaz in California. Welcome, everybody. Vicky in Belgium. Amy in Asheville, yay. Susie in the UK, Monique in London, hi Monique, yay. So glad to be here with all of you. Anslin in Mexico. All right, wonderful. And I know we have people joining live over on YouTube as well. So welcome everybody on YouTube. If you would like to put your name and location in the YouTube chat, that would be wonderful as well. So we can say hi to you too. So I think with that, we can begin. So yeah, I know Patricia has some amazing slides for us today.
Yeah.
I guess we're not doing big introductions today. We're assuming you guys know us. But yeah, I'm Jocelyn Starfeather. I'm the founder of Sacred Planet. And Patricia, would you like to say a few words about your work at the beginning here?
Of course. I am Patricia Alyan-Lehman, and I've been living in Egypt for almost 15 years now, which is just incredible. And yeah, my whole focus here is the research of the mythology and symbolism, the esoteric and metaphysical understanding of what ancient Egypt and the ancient Khemitians had to offer and leave for us. So yeah, we'll leave it at that.
That's great. That's perfect. Yes, and so we will mention here at the beginning that Patricia and I we are co-leading a tour in Egypt in early 2024. It will be from January 23rd to February 5th, 2024. And it is called Egypt, Awakening Our Infinite Potentials. So I'll put a link to the tour in the chat here on Zoom. And once the YouTube is posted and recorded, it will be in the description field there. And of course, we'll tell you a lot more about that later in the presentation, but just wanted you all to know that from the beginning, because we are so excited to offer that. And the spaces are filling up quickly there. So yeah.
Well, we did it this last March together, and it was such a phenomenal group that was with us, and it's a phenomenal experience, combining, what we both bring to the table and, the sharings with the group. So yeah, it really can be a life-changing, and almost always is. Egypt, the land itself is absolutely incredible. And then what you experience here it changes your life forever, and it offers you exactly what our title says: opportunities to gain incredible incredible openings for knowledge, wisdom, healing, body, mind, and spirit. There are so many, potentials, infinite potentials, if you
Truly.
will, of having an experience at sacred sites all over the world, and just growing your own knowledge and wisdom of some of the things that the ancients left for us. It's just such an incredible body and heritage of knowledge. In Egypt and in many places all over the world. And with all the traveling I know that we've both done, we see the same knowing and knowledge, wisdom being offered to all of us from indigenous communities and sacred areas and mythologies and symbolism worldwide. It's a cross-cultural knowing that has somehow been forgotten. And I guess some of us make it our life mission to bring this information forward. So that's what we hope to share with you today.
Yes. Yes, truly, truly. And it's just such a powerful experience to be there, to have your feet on the ground in Egypt, be receiving the energy of the land there, receive the energy of these incredible temples, which are just very, very precisely aligned with the stars and with the ley lines and the underwater currents below the earth, and then pulling all of that energy into the center place in the temple. And we get to walk through those temples and experience that and receive those codes and that healing that happens there. So it is truly life-changing on so many levels.
So let's get started.
Yes, let's begin.
Okay, share screen. There we go. Can you see?
Yes, it looks great.
Beautiful. Okay. So we're going to talk about the Lion's Gate from an Egyptian understanding, because this is where it all literally comes from, this understanding of the Lion's Gate. It's funny, I was just telling Jocelyn that I had read an article posted on social media by someone who's fairly well known, saying that, the Lion's Gate was just, spiritual new age, mumbo jumbo that, had no meaning. And I thought, well, gee, I guess if you don't understand its origins or the concept or what it really means, then it would be easy to think or say that. But it really does have a firm foundation basically in pre-dynastic times in ancient Egypt. So we wanted to share a little bit about that, because this is such a powerful time that's celebrated each year annually. We celebrate it on August 8th, but it's really denoting a time in ancient Egypt when the sun rose, had a heliacal rising with Sirius. And that heliacal rising was sort of like an alchemical marriage. It was a coming together that initiated a new year, but it has a depth of meaning that it's much more ancient and offers a much more powerful depth of knowing. And it's talking about a moment, and it happens annually. It happens daily. What we're looking here is the Aker. You're seeing these two beautiful lions, one female, one male. One, if you look at the female on the left, she has almost like a star on her shoulder. And I believe, I honestly believe that this is representing the sun's relationship with Sirius. And this heliacal rising. So as the feminine lion, I believe the Sphinx is representing Sirius, and she's waiting for Leo to rise on the horizon. If you're familiar with Robert Duvall's work and so many others, Graham Hancock, where they speak about this ancient time, about 12,000 years ago, when the sun rose in the east in the age of Leo, and this is the moment that they want to date the Giza Plateau to. It wouldn't be Leo looking for Leo to rise on the horizon. It would be Sirius. It would be, a feminine. I believe the Sphinx is feminine. And there are studies out by Robert Schock and another researcher. His name is Manu. Can't pronounce his last name. I apologize. but they speak about a very ancient pre-dynastic lioness that they believe is the Sphinx, and that name was Menet. Menet relates to Tefnut. And if you're aware of some of the things that Jocelyn and I have talked about over the years in our presentations, I've always said that Hakim, who was my father-in-law, Abdel Hakim Alian, he was known as a great knowledge holder and wisdom keeper here. He had always said the Sphinx was Tefnut. And Tefnut is the story of this ancient life force, the water. She is the spit of Nut, the water of the earth. And she represents that life force that leaves Egypt on an annual basis, but also, it's speaking to this ebb and flow of water, life force that occurs basically throughout all of our cycles, yearly cycles. And I believe the great year cycle, if you're familiar with the precession of equinoxes. So these are huge patterns and cycles. And what we're looking at with the Acher is you're looking at the sun basically rising on the horizon. What's sitting on the backs of the two lions is called the Acher. It's the horizon, the Akhet rather. It's the horizon, and the sun, the bird, the hawk, inside that sun disk is Ra. It has the sun disk on its head, and it's rising, and underneath, which is just fascinating. I love this illustration. If you look underneath it, you're seeing an image, and I have it on the right. I don't know if you can see it because our faces appear for the symbol of Nehe, which is time. It's a symbol for the passing of time. But we have here in the center is the Aten. And the Aten, you might be familiar with it, represents basically, it represents a moment of no time and no space, our highest moment of knowing, our gnosis, when we have a pause, and there's a pause in every cycle. We have one in our day cycle at noon, and at midnight we have the perception that the sun stops moving for a few moments, or the moon stops moving for a few moments at midnight and begins again. Our solstices in the southern and the northern hemisphere both represents these moments, these 3 days when the sun, solstice means the still sun, when the days don't get longer or shorter for 3 days each, twice a year. And it's also reflected again in that great year, a 24 to 26,000 year pattern, our program when we priestess through the ages. When we've talked about before, Jocelyn and I, about now we're moving into this age of Aquarius. And Aquarius is one of these, as we process into Aquarius, this is another one of those still moments. But we're not going to talk about that today. The most important thing is that this is actually denoting that still moment. And just as the sun rises, it's that moment at dawn when the sun just rises. And that's that portal between the two worlds. It's the portal into the higher realms, this space where of no time and no space. It's really a spectacular knowing. And the two lions here, the ancient names for them are Dwaj and Sefer. And the colloquial understanding is Dwaj means yesterday and Sefer means tomorrow. And I always think it's that moment between yesterday and tomorrow, right? But those lions, if they were to go forward and start moving, and this is the concept, and I do have imagery that they come back together. What happens when yesterday meets tomorrow? It's it's an end and a new beginning. Every end is a new beginning. And again, what denotes that moment of silence, if you see the bird Ra in the sun disk, he's actually riding a cobra, a serpent. And that cobra has the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. And that means he's been able to harmonize the two, transmute his polarity within the two sides of self, to have this moment of complete harmonic resonance. And this is what we call the Lion's Gate. It is that moment of harmonic resonance that we're all seeking. It's basically the Holy Grail. It's that moment of, wow, a 0 point moment. And, Jocelyn and I can talk about this at some of the places in Egypt, like in the Great Pyramid, and many other places. You have an opportunity to get to have and experience that moment, of complete resonance. And, I've been with so many people over the years, 15 plus years, or almost 15 years. Actually, I came many times before I came to live here. And I've been in the Great Pyramid, I don't even know how many times, but I've been with people that, they have that moment where they literally feel like they've left their bodies, and not just in the Great Pyramid, in certain places in the temples, and certain areas, certain portals within the temples where you have an underground passing of two channels of water. It creates a vortex energy. And it's that energy that can take you to these levels where you have these infinite potentials for great awakenings. And I guess this is what we're talking about. And I've seen people come out of these experiences and go home and write the book they wanted to write all their lives, or, make changes in their lives that really enable them to follow their bliss. And I think this is what, when we talk about the Lionsgate, this is what we're talking about. It's that opportunity to, to actually experience something that is beyond anything we can imagine. So I will continue.
I totally agree, Patricia. So powerful about what can happen in as you walk through the temples and the pyramids, and and that the experience we had in March 2023 in the Great Pyramid, for example, it was just beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And I know we were all changed from that. I know we were all open to this higher frequency energy, and then able to bring that into our lives in a new way, going forward from that moment. It was this incredible alignment, so yes.
It's so true. I cannot, we don't even have enough time for all the stories I would love to share and tell. But I love to bring this image into my lectures and podcasts and discussions, because it's beautiful imagery that it somehow gets lost, and people don't recognize or see it. But you'll see this image of the serpent. We're looking at the top of a head of an ancient statue, probably of a king or a pharaoh, or a priest. But you're looking at this wonderful image. This is the body of the cobra, and it runs across the top of the skull in a sine wave pattern. And it's basically connecting the two hemispheres of the brain. And when I talk about, and when we talk about that moment, of gnosis, that moment of harmonic resonance, that happens when we're able to transmute our polarity and bring our two hemispheres of the brain together. And that creates that, it creates a moment for healing, body, mind, and spirit. And it's such a powerful thing. And why this is so important is because, at this moment, we're on a journey of perception, basically, of rising and falling consciousness. And this all has to do with how we perceive the world, reality. And right now we are more focused on a left brain, connection to everything that we're experiencing. And the left brain is very analytical, it's mind-based. And the right brain is, there was a time we actually basically experience the world from a right brain understanding, which is the creative force of nature. It's intuitive, it's creative. They call it the feminine and the masculine. I'm not talking about men and women. I'm talking about two different expressions from the heart and from the mind. And both are valid and wonderful and necessary. And this is why you want to connect the two. You harness both, you bring the two together. And that is that moment. That's that portal. This is the Lionsgate, coming to this center where we can experience the world with much greater sensitivity to what we're, so many more senses Today we experience the world with such limited senses. This is what we are all looking for. And this is what the ancient Egyptians were focused on. So back to our lion's gate and our portal. I love this illustration on the left-hand side, and you can see the zodiac signs in the heavens, basically, and you see Leo facing the sun. And behind this, you're seeing the shadow of the night. So it's an interplay of shadow and light, day and night, and it's all about day and night cycles. And so at the bottom, you see this dog, and the dog is Sirius. It's speaking to this heliacal rising. It's that, the dog days of summer. This is why it happens. And this is where we get the phrase dog days. It happens in the heat of the summer. And as I said, it has to do with latitude. Depending on where you are in the world, it happens at a different time within this certain time period. August 8th falls between all of those dates. But in ancient Egypt, in 5,000 years ago in Memphis, which is very near to where I am right now in Giza, it occurred on July 15th. But because we precess, all the stars in the heavens seem to change a little bit. And the sun rises on the horizon. It changes about 1 degree around the world, around the globe every 72 years. And age is 2,160 years. So today, when we experience it, we had our Lion's Gate in Cairo on August 2nd, I'm sorry. And this is the New Year's Day. This is when they celebrated it in ancient Egypt. Now we celebrate it in January, and that's the moment that Sirius is furthest away. It's the highest in the sky, which is interesting that we make that flip from what they did in ancient times. But it is this, as I said, beautiful portal between darkness and light. And the image you see of the pyramids on the right-hand side, it is an actual heliacal rising of the sun and Sirius. And as I said, it's a journey of perception. Consciousness, do you think we always experience the world the way we do now? I think that's one of the mistakes we make when we look at symbolism and mythology, that, we think we want to interpret everything from our own current day understanding. But what if the ancients experienced everything very differently from how we do? And this is what I want to put forward. And they explain this within their symbolism. And this is a temple both Jocelyn and I absolutely adore. It's the Temple of Esna, and we're actually going to go there for the first time together in January. And this is what's really spectacular about this temple is they have just cleaned the ceiling. And I used to go in there, and it was all sooty and dark, like Dendera used to be. And I would go in and I would just take pictures and try and see what was up on the ceiling, because there were so many incredible images. And now we can go in and we see them. They're so beautiful. We can see them in their entirety. And this is one of the scenes I was waiting for, because what we're looking at is actually this journey of consciousness. It's basically, you're seeing consciousness expressed within the stages of the full moon, waxing and waning, well, actually waning on the top and waxing on the bottom. So you see on the top, on the full eye is right near the head of the Sphinx, the standing Sphinx. And you see the full eye, and the full eye is the full moon, and it goes through 14 stages where the eye becomes functions. It's separating into that nothingness of a new moon. And that's actually indicating we're falling into separation consciousness, which is sort of where we're at. This is the patriarchal, mind-based, left brain understanding of our reality. And this is where we move into this warrior archetype, and we can be controlled by agendas that instill fear. And that fear causes us to raise arms, right, for protection. All of these things, it's all based on an illusion. And when we move back on the bottom level, you're looking at the 14 stages of the moon waxing back into fullness, into that full eye expression. And where that full eye is, I have the red circle oval. You can see there's an image of Thoth sitting on the throne, sitting in his power. Thoth represents consciousness, and he's holding the eye of full consciousness. We call him Jehuti, his ancient name, but that full eye, he is the master of consciousness. It's just a beautiful expression. When we rise back into fullness, it's moving towards unity consciousness again. And these are the cycles of the precession of the equinoxes or the great year. And we move through these cycles, as they express, these are cycles that they give to us moving through time and space. But in reality, it's something we can do. They have an ancient symbol that speaks to making these, creating these changes in moments within any breath. Because we breathe out into separation and we breathe back in, back to the heart, right? We breathe in to the heart, which is back to unity consciousness. And so it's often said that in that moment of silence, when the breath comes back to center, is our moment to, moment of infinite potentials to make any of these changes. And this is, again, a discipline, a learning experience. And so when we actually do make that step through that portal, you can see on the right of the Aker, we have, or the Lion's Gate, we have what's called the Bennu bird. And of course, this is our phoenix expression, the bird rising from the ashes. And from Wallace Budge, it's just a beautiful thing I would like to share, that he says, this bird is said to have created itself and to have come into being from out of the fire which burned on top of the sacred persea tree of Hierapolis. It is essentially a sunbird and was a symbol of both the rising sun and of the dead sun god Osiris, from whom it sprang and to whom it was sacred. The Bennu not only typified the new birth of the sun each morning, but in the earliest period of dynastic history, it became the symbol of the resurrection of mankind. For a man's spiritual body was believed to spring from the dead physical body, just as the living sun of today. It had its origin in the dead sun of yesterday. And it's speaking to that same, that same cycle that, at this moment when we come into unity consciousness, this is the moment we move into higher levels of our higher dimensions of knowingness, and have the ability to, almost traverse the dimensions, but also feel the energies that emanate from everything in our environment, from every shape, from every color. It expresses a subtle energy. And I believe the ancients had this ability. And this is something we've lost as we have devolved into our present state of separation and isolation. Check this out. Isn't this gorgeous? It's the two sphinxes coming together. And I just think it's such a beautiful image. It was drawn by Etcher Haller in 1652, and it's called The Sphinx with Two Bodies. But what you're seeing is when yesterday meets tomorrow, it's the moment of harvest. And it's expressing something even more divine, because it's that this is happening within us. It's an outer expression that's actually speaking to a journey that we can take, with our own, our own discipline. When we're able to master our polarity, we have that kundalini moment, as they speak about. That's that moment when we have this energy rising within ourselves, and really transforming how we experience reality itself. And this is also expressed in ancient Egypt. And I have, these are the two figures, both related. We see Horus on the left, and we see Nehi on the right. Nehi is Ophiuchus. He's a constellation, and we see him all over the world. He's the serpent bearer. And what he's doing is, what they're both doing is mastering their polarity, transmuting their polarity, coming back into harmonic resonance for a moment of silence, that portal, that moment where we awaken our infinite potentials, if you will. And this is expressed in so many places. You see Horus here, he's the innocence of youth. It's literally giving up our core beliefs, letting go of all the baggage that we carry, and enabling ourselves to see things how they really are. And that the light and dark within us are both two sides of the same coin. There is no, we are the ones that put the labels good and evil. And I honestly believe that, someone asked me, in front of me, asked Hakeem once if Set was evil. And his eyes twinkled and he smiled and he said, well, it all depends on which way you're looking. And it always reminds me, when we look at the word devil, which Set is the devil, right? Not. If you spell devil backwards, it means lived, right? Evil backwards is lived. It depends on, on which side you're coming from. And so Set in very ancient times was never considered evil. It's something that as, again, we move into separation consciousness, we begin to see and experience, these labels of good and evil, but labels are containers and we limit ourselves with our labels. Hakeem would say that all the time. That's what we need to free ourselves from, open our minds, open our hearts to experiencing the world in an entirely different way. And this is an amazing image. Can everybody see the whole image, or are they looking at what I'm looking at, Jocelyn?
No, we can see the full screen, and also it puts your and my images off to the side, so it's not covering it.
Okay, great, because I have us actually blocking some of the imagery, so I'm so glad you get to see it.
Yeah, it doesn't show up that way for everybody else, just for you.
Oh, that's okay. I've seen these images before. Thank you. So yeah, this is a beautiful image of the Netert, and remember, Netter's the Neteru, the word Neter itself comes from the consonants NTR, which is where we get our word. It actually, it's where we get our word nature. It was pronounced by the Romans as nature, and that's where we get our word nature and our word eternal and eternity. All of these words come from this word of Neter. And the Neter is, they were not, the Neteru, the plural, were not gods and goddesses as we perceive them today. By the ancients considered the Neteru forces of nature. They were describing what they could feel, in their environment, in their reality. These are the subtle energies that create our perception of reality. And so Heka was this Neter that represent this ability to do just that. So you can see that he's able to harness all these serpents, these energies in motion, and he's harnessing too. And when you cross any two lines of energy or lines, you're creating a portal. That place in the center is the portal that we're talking about. And Hecate itself meant to employ the Ka, and the Ka is the life force. It's basically the ability to feel, navigate, and harness these forces of nature to create, wonderful, wonderful temples and pyramids and so many things that you experience. The statuary that seems so alive and seems so impossible for us to actually create today in 3 dimensions. So Heka was in ancient times this ability to master and perceive and navigate the currents was Heka. It's the underlying force between with the spirituality. So here we're looking at, this is one of my favorite images in Dendera Temple, the Temple of Hathor. And again, we've talked about this so many times, Jocelyn, Dendera being such a spectacular temple that reveals so many mysteries. And I'm using a black and white drawing of it here because it's so hard to get a good picture of it because it's on a panel that's a little high in a very small chamber. But what you're looking at is an interesting expression of how we perceive the world when we're alive in a 3D reality. And what you see is basically there's Thoth, he's the ibis bird with the human form, and Shu, who is Tefnut's brother, if you will. And together they're holding what they call the net. And you're going to love what the net is. And the net is the container of our consciousness in a three-dimensional reality. And so on the far left, what you see, you're actually seeing the journey of consciousness again in a different way of presenting it. Because right above them, you're looking at an image, it's called, where I have pointed sky, it's actually called Pet, and it is the sky. With the little scarab beetle, he has the solar disk and he's about to push it across the sky, across the Milky Way. And when he gets to the other side, you see another image of Thoth as the baboon. He expresses in two different forms. The baboon is wisdom from within, heart-centered consciousness. The ibis bird is wisdom from above. So it's that external, consciousness. It's mind-based consciousness. So where the Kepler beetle starts to push, if you notice, there is a papyrus pillar, but it's at an angle. And if you look at the angle, it's 23.5 degrees, which is the tilt of the earth. So when we fall, when the earth falls off its axis, it tilts around 23.5 degrees. And so this pillar that should be straight up and down has tilted, and this is where we start the journey. It's the hero's journey. It's the journey of Osiris. So as he pushes that, the sun disk across the Milky Way, across the heavens, and you get to the other side, you see the erect papyrus pillar. And the erect papyrus pillar holds the consciousness within. So it's telling us we move from mind-based, out of balance, into heart-based consciousness. And then at the bottom, you see the ibis birds walking back across the earth to where the axis falls again. And it's funny that axis, the axis mundi, is also the Jed pillar. And we see images of the raising of the Jed pillar, which is identified with Osiris and other, especially at Abydos. It was a ceremony that the priests celebrated every year. And it's telling us this is a cyclical event. So, it's not that we're always stuck in one way of viewing the world. We are always migrating and changing and transforming. The Kepler beetle symbolizes transformation. And look at how that offers us so many potentials for growth. And I'm never saying that, they're only telling us this happens through a journey of time and space, but it can happen in any moment with any breath. And this is also expressed within their symbolism. So, it's just an amazing expression. And here we're looking at the actual net itself. And it's funny, as long as I've been in Egypt, I've seen these nets everywhere on ceilings and in tombs. And this is a beautiful depiction of it at Edfu. And I figured it out. I was like, oh my gosh, you see all the animals and the birds, but you also see human figures with their hands tied behind their backs. They're called the hostages, but they're held hostage in the belief that they are their bodies. And the net is our magnetic field. And it's the container that we are basically born into. So that magnetic field is that which it basically contains us, protects us, but it also prevents us from experiencing the radiation from the cosmic, the sun and the stars, which may be what enlightens us. So a whole different dynamic. But within this expression, there's always hope. And the figure all the way to the far right that you kind of can't see because it's so bright is Thoth again. And Thoth was known to be the master of the net, which, he's the one that is able to, again, surpass those confinements, rise above the confinements and experience the world through a higher sensibility, higher conscious awareness. And so, the net is really the flexible matrix of creation. They call it the breath of God. And it's what we would describe today as the matrix of space-time. Yeah, really fascinating, that, they like to say that we like to say we're far more intelligent and aware than the ancients were. But when you look at the things that we see and experience at some of these ancient sites, and this again is worldwide, it's some of it is so mind-boggling. It's incredible what they were able to perceive and express and leave in messages and symbolism for us to unravel. And it's revealing basically who we, the question I asked, almost when I was born is, who am I? Where am I from? What is this all about? And they have those answers. And they tell us that we too can become masters of the net. I actually watched a podcast by a wonderful man, Dr. Robert Gilbert, who has studied many different things, radiesthesia, and with Dr. Ibrahim Karim, he studied biogeometry, which I can't speak highly enough of. This is one of his books, Back to a Future for Mankind. He has written several. He just wrote one that I'm working my way through. The information, again, is just, I call him the Imhotep of our time. And that's, I'm not saying that lightly. If you can get your hands on some of his books or take some of his courses, I highly recommend it. I wasn't able to. They had moved to Canada and came back in January of 2020, and I took their course. And, it was like coming home, because this is everything that I discovered and found to be true in Egypt. And he says it so eloquently, and he has modalities for how we can navigate all the negative currency, the radiation that's in our environment today, and so many other things. So anyway, he's, Robert Gilbert says, the initiates into the spiritual and vibrational sciences were known as the masters of the net. The net is the flexible matrix of creation. This was often shown in symbolic form as a physical net, as shown here in the hands of the initiates. The masters of the net knew how to work with the invisible vibrational world, which forms a net, a matrix which determines the appearance and functions of everything in the manifest world. And so this is what Jocelyn and I were talking about when, we come to awaken our infinite potentials. It's learning, they're telling us here as we move through the structures, the temples. And again, you don't have to come to Egypt. We'd love it if you did and you came with us. But you can do it through just growing your own wisdom and reading and meditating. And, they tell us to meditate. Well, meditating is finding that moment of silence, that space of no time, no space, that moment when we connect to the divine potentials. And I love this too, because this actually expresses, and Jocelyn, could you read it for me? Because our images are covering the text.
Yes, the left or the right?
The right. It's from Joe Dispenza, who has written the book, and the image is from that book. But I love the expression and what it says.
Yes, it says, what would it mean to become supernatural? What if you could tune into the frequencies beyond your material world, change your brain chemistry to access transcendent levels of awareness, create a new future, and transform your very biology to enable profound healings? and the title is Reconditioning the Body to a New Mind.
And isn't that what we're talking about?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes.
And the funny thing is, even our word supernatural, that we call it supernatural. The ancients called it natural. It was nature. It was what they all could do. And Hakeem would say, it's what you all have. You have it. You got it. He would just, we have one taping, a recording of him, and he says that, you have it. You got it. Wake up. And that's the key, is to awaken we say it all the time. We don't have to wait for an event. Let's do it now. And another thing Hakeem said is they got I don't know if everybody's heard of the Shemsu Hor, the followers of Horus. And Hakeem always said that they were pronouncing it wrong. It wasn't Shemsu Hor, it was Seshu Hor. And Seshu comes from the word, it's the base or foundation of the word Seshet. And she was the netter. She's depicted on the far right. Was the netter that represents liquid light becoming form in sacred geometric patterns, cycles and patterns, and all forming these sacred geometric images. And so she was the great architect, basically, of our expression of everything that exists. She doesn't get the credit she deserves. She's famous for her 7-petaled flower. Like many people like to say is the marijuana leaf. And I would say, no, they're off on the wrong path there, other than just the expression of every plant and, all the shells and everything that exists does express itself in these patterns. And that would include the marijuana plant. So don't give up hope, guys. Just kidding. But what's on her head, people would say it's a bow, for like a bow and arrow. And arrows in ancient symbolism represent rays of light, right? Like arrows shooting from the sun or from the stars can be like a beam of light from the sun or the star. But it also, I've seen it depicted as 2 serpents with their heads together at the top. And you can almost see that here in that image. But again, she is here in that image. You only see half of it, but she's doing a stretching of the cord ceremony, which was very important in ancient times for how, Jocelyn said at the beginning that, they aligned all their structures to stellar, solar, and lunar events. And that was part of what Seshet did. And she aligned them, interesting, with the use of the Big Dipper. The Big Dipper is something very associated with the circumpolar spin, which also spins out the journey that we're on as we move through the ages and stages of consciousness. And this image on the left is so beautiful. We often see the leopard skin on high priests, but this is an image of an Old Kingdom Egyptian princess, and she has the leopard skin on. And what it's denoting, and Seshet also always wears the leopard skin. And what's really interesting, the leopard skin is a feline skin, and only those who had achieved this knowing to feel the currents and harness the currents and navigate the currents in our field of expression, they were able to wear this leopard skin. But we see high priests all over the world wearing lion pelts or jaguar skins or feline skins in every, all over the world. This was something that had to do with the feline. And I always say that, Tefnut, the Sphinx, is it's a reclining cat. And, I had seen a meme once that said, never sleep where a cat sleep. And it's because they like to sleep where in G-pathic stress zones or where radiation is emanating from the earth. There is a relationship with felines, cats, and earth energies, earth lines. So again, when she's aligning, Seshet is the astrologer, but she's also placing these sacred sites metaphorically on places, power places, where there are powerful earth currents, which normally you will have underground running water, aquifers or running water. And as I said, oftentimes, almost always crossing, creating portals within the structures. The structures are alive. This knowing is just incredible. And I wish we had more time to speak more about some of the things and the tools they use. Here again is another image of them having this stretching of the cord ceremony, which is laying the foundation, the blueprint for the structure that will be built on this, specific place with these specific alignments, to create living, breathing structures that can interact with us, patterned after the universe, and are reflected also within the human body. And so if you've heard of swallowed alluvials, the temple in man, this all, and in India, you see imagery all the time of man depicted, as the foundation of a temple. It's not by accident. So as I say,
I have a quick little funny story about that, about, what happens to us as we're standing in the temples and receiving those alignments. Last time in March, when I was there, I had an acupuncture appointment the day after I flew back from Egypt, and I have regular acupuncture. So, she knows like my pulses and what they normally are. And she took my pulses that day, right after I returned from Egypt. And she kind of like stepped back and she was like, "Oh my gosh, what did you do? You are supercharged." I was like, "Well, I've been in Egypt for 4 weeks, so it was so funny."
I've heard experience similar to that so many times, and it's so true. And especially, when you go into some of these sites where we're able to tone, get that resonant toning, creating that harmonic resonance in some of the small chambers. And we have those moments, and we come out feeling euphoric, so blissful. And many times you do, it's almost like you leave the space that you're in, and go somewhere else. Yeah, and this is again where we get the term X marks the spot. The symbol that we're looking at on the left is the symbol for the place. It could be a town, a city, but it's always a portal. And it was called Newt, and it meant the crossroads within the wall. Per netter het was a phrase that referred to the place of the per netter. And the per netter, Hakim said, was the pyramid. It's the place or house of energy, referring to these forces of nature. So when they build these pyramids, they're basically harnessing these forces of nature. And that's why we have we have a wonderful many books by Christopher Dunn that speaks about the pyramids as power plants, and, pulsing energy. And I believe, in a way they built these structures in order to maintain, to create a field of energy that would help us maintain this higher consciousness for as long as possible, with that knowing that we would devolve, because it's part of the cycle, devolving consciousness. And that's just a beautiful image of Hakim on the right. It gives you a chance to see who he is if you're not familiar with him. Several books out there by Stephen Mailer, and Carmen Bolter has the Pyramid Code series. If you want to know more about Hakim, he was an incredible man, and really had keys to so much knowledge. And again, he said that the pyramids, look at this, to stand in front of it, and I lived at the foot of these pyramids for 8 years, and I used to go up and spend hours, I've just been so blessed in my life and in my experiencing here in Egypt. But it's just an incredible, this is the Great Pyramid, incredible structure. And so they're built in sacred geometric patterns, utilizing specific combinations of rocks and minerals with subterranean flowing water to harness the natural flow of the energies of the earth, the heavens, solar, stellar, lunar currents at specific locations to create interactive energy fields. And many of them are connected to other complexes. So, we know that there's tunnels that connect Saqqara. We've heard of tunnels all over Egypt. subterranean tunnels connecting these sites, some with running water. Hakeem told a story where he went into a well or in Saqqara, and he walked. He was about 9 years old, I think. He walked, crawled, swam his way all the way. He came out in Giza, on the Giza Plateau, so that there you have it. I know of someone, and I know he was telling the truth. He showed us where he entered, which is now covered. They covered it up, but and there's so many stories that the locals tell of their time in these tunnels. So, people are always coming and asking me, or talking about the Hall of Records and where it is. And, whenever anybody asks Hakeem, he'd just point to your forehead, that the Hall of Records is within, and we hold the keys to finding and opening and unlocking these doors. And I would also say that all of these structures, the pyramids, the ancient temples, they're all halls of records. When we walk in them and we see what is hidden within that symbolism, when it speaks to us, when the structures themselves are created in such a way that they interact with us, body, mind, and spirit, these are halls of records that have the ability to awaken us. And some of the incredible precision with which they are built, it's just mind-boggling. The pyramid contains, all of these formulas for, the distance between the earth and the sun and the moon and the speed of light and just so many things. It was created, with precise alignments to, the nth of a degree. And you think, how did they do that? And I would say, it wasn't a technology. It was an innate knowing. And if you're an artist or you write books, well, an artist can be anything. We all have talents. But sometimes we get in the groove and we feel like we're channeling. I'm an artist and I've done paintings, and afterwards I'll be like, wow, what was I thinking when I did that? But I wasn't thinking, I was allowing something to come through. And I think that's having like a brief inkling or understanding of what I think the ancients were able to do all the time with their unity consciousness, their connectedness to everything, and feeling those subtle energies. I think they created imperfection. And it was just a knowing that they were able to do, because we do live in a fractal holographic world. So all of those numbers are actually defining, sacred geometrical shapes and forms that exist in everything we're experiencing. So I would say they sensed, and therefore they could master the Netert or forces of nature to create life-enhancing harmonic resonance. It's no accident that our current tools and definitions for measurement find so many incredible details about our universe within the structure of the Great Pyramid and its placement on the planet. When we are in tune with the universal flow, we innately create in harmony with its rhythms. That's my opinion. And if you ever get a chance to stand in front of Sekhmet, and you see the beauty of this statue, Hakeem said she's probably the oldest statue still standing in its same place. And she's made of this beautiful granite, a rare quality of granite, and her eyes are, look, you can almost see it. I've almost captured it in this image, but when you're in front of her, her eyes are human and they're alive. She is alive, and some would say, oh, Patricia, come on, you're crazy. But the truth is they were supreme. They had the artistry, the ability to literally create in perfection, to embody the archetypal qualities of what these statues represented. And Sekhmet, is the great healer. She is the one that, encouraged us to rip open our hearts, to show our true selves and awaken those hearts within, awaken ourselves again to all those infinite potentials. And this is an image of my friend and colleague, Alan. And I just think it's so beautiful because, how many times have you stood before her, Jocelyn? and how many amazing experiences.
Oh, it's just the most incredible thing to stand before her. Yeah. I
Um,
think I have been there 3 times now. And yes, I feel she, she looks into your heart. She really does. And she will offer you messages and, instructions. And it's just incredible what happens when you're in that room. It's like nothing else. Um,
truly.
and she is so alive. She is so alive. Her eyes are so alive.
Yeah. I think, I have worked with so many people. I've led tours with one person up to more than 100. It seems that some of their most powerful experiences are their moments with Sekhmet. Um, and it's just a small chamber, and there's a little opening in the ceiling, and sometimes that light, you hear it shining on Alan. But it's a powerful place. And again, I'm speaking to the ability of the ancients to create something so phenomenal that we would call supernatural experience, but was completely natural for them. And so Hakim called these structures the temples, the purbas, the houses of the soul that were designed to awaken our senses. And so whether you're aware of it or not, you can wander about these structures and not know anything about the symbolism or what you're experiencing or looking at, and it's still going to interact with you. But the more knowledge you have, the more you grow your field of knowledge and vision, I think you have the ability to really know how to walk through these structures and how to experience them in a way that you're actually on a journey that you're aware of. And they really are, each one, is sort of it operates on a different frequency, and hence each one dedicated to a different netter. Karnak is the temple of Amun. We have Hathor, we have Isis, we have, Hiru, our hero, which is Horus. His ancient name was Hiru. There's just so many structures and giving us opportunity to awaken different senses within ourselves. And again, I can't read this one. Jocelyn, if you could, sorry.
Yes, sorry, had to unmute. So yes, as you walk through the temples, the floors. Hold on a second. Oh, I see.
Oh, I know.
As you
Yes.
walk through the temples, the floors as earth rise, and the ceilings as the heaven get lower until you come to the pineal, the place where heaven meets earth in the Holy of Holies.
Yes, yes, yes. A lot of people don't realize as they're walking through the temples that that's actually happening. But if you become more aware of it, you'll, in the outer chambers, you're usually under the stars of the heavens, the day sky, walking on the ground. And then you go into the first chamber and you're inside the container, the womb of the temple. But as you continue to walk through the floors, which are the earth, designed to be the earth, and the ceiling, which is designed to be the heavens, that comes together. And as you get closer and closer to the Holy of Holies, you're literally in that place where heaven meets earth. And what an experience. And so sad that the priests at a certain time, that the priests of Amun, basically, in the age of Taurus, when we really developed that sense that we are our bodies. This is when the priests became what Hakim called the Hanut, the undertakers. But they developed this concept of death and separation, and they separated out the temple. That the general public wasn't allowed into the temple. They were only allowed into the outer portions, the great courtyards for the celebrations. And then, only the priests, depending on their level of ability, were able to go into the structure, and depending on who they were, how far they could go, with only the high priest You know, he was the only one worthy who could handle the energy, the powerful energies of the Holy of Holies. The ancient structures were designed for all of us. We were all sesh. We were all seshet. We all had these abilities, and we all could interact and harness these wonderful energies. So as I said, each temple resonated to a different frequency, and could awaken a sense or frequency, a spark of knowing within our own mind, body, and spirit.
Patricia, I was thinking maybe we should go to telling people a little more about the tour. I don't, but you know, at whatever time you think is right, but maybe sooner rather than.
Well, no, you're absolutely right. And I am almost done. I didn't make it a long presentation, but I
never want to cut short what you're sharing. I just also want to make sure everybody has the information.
No, but you're absolutely right. And this is one of the things you would experience on one of our tours. It's known, it's at Saqqara. It's the image of Saqqara is on the upper left-hand corner. And it's called, Hakeem called it the healing hospital, sound healing hospital. But he was not the only one. I have met and spoken to people that studied with Egyptologists in Egypt, Egyptian Egyptologists, if you will, and also teaching the same knowing that this structure that is at Saqqara is really phenomenal. And again, it's harnessing underground running water. And there are niches, and you know, I'm not going to give you all the information now, but everyone gets a chance, if there's not too many people, gets a chance to experience this feeling in this ability, you know, the power that this site holds for healing. And the priests at this time were able to basically heal through sound, color, frequency itself. You know, and how they would do this is by, you know, sending, you know, they would be able to envision the, you know, the energetic matrix of the patient's body and see where there were blockages. And they were able to send that right sound or frequency that would, you know, open that, you know, destroy that blockage, so that the energy could flow again. And that is the healing of the physical body. But that's only one side. And I'm not going to go into the details, but they also have a space in this, there's another courtyard to the north where you're able to experience your own balance within, because the reason we fall into a state of disease is because we're out of balance. And so it's just incredible that, you know, they knew that, you know, yes, we can heal, you know, we can even effect spontaneous healing, but the healing won't stick with us if we don't heal what's happening within to cause that dis-ease, that being, you know, out of balance. And so, you know, they cover all the bases, and they're harnessing, they're using natural forces of nature, the Netert, you know, and not synthetic medicines and some of the things that we take today that may cure the illness, but will they heal, you know, what's really ailing us? So I'll stop on that note.
Okay, I'm sorry. I never want you to stop, actually, but
No, it's okay. You know, I can go on forever.
Yes, and we love it when you do. I just wanted to say too, that healing hospital at Saqqara, that is so powerful, because when you put your head in that frequency chamber, it's like you become the healer yourself, right? You are consulting with the forces of nature and the vibrational frequency of the universe, and receiving, you know, whatever you most need, even if you don't understand all that you're receiving. It's incredible. That is such an incredible experience.
And let me explain why, because you are absolutely right, Jocelyn. And it's because it connects you. And again, and this is through harnessing the energy and the frequency and underground water and channels, but you're able to hear the heartbeat of the earth itself. And when you connect with the heartbeat of the earth, it enables you to connect with the patterns of the patient. So what Jocelyn is explaining is 100% true. And it's an incredible experience. People, the naysayers that come and say, ah, hogwash. And, I say, just put your head in the niche and tell me what you feel. And they come out like, wow.
Right,
And,
you can argue with that.
it's what they normally say is, what? Well, I couldn't hear anything because there was a plane going overhead or somebody rode a motorcycle past me. It's like,
No
nah,
plane.
that didn't happen.
Wow, yeah, that's amazing. Yes. Well, so I can share the website page. Maybe that would be the most helpful, unless you had slides for the tour.
Well, these are some of the experiences we had. Time with Sekhmet, between the paws of the Sphinx, Tefnut, one of the most powerful places on the planet.
And we last year we brought a singing bowl. We create these experiences that are, you can go into a deep meditative and shamanic journeying space in the places such as between the paws of the Sphinx and in the ancient Osirian, which we haven't talked about yet today, but there's a really extremely ancient temple that is behind Abydos temple. So we create these experiences where you can go way deeply in and really connect with the energetics in a deeper way than most people, ever will when they're visiting here.
So true. Some of the images from the temples, this big one is from Abydos, and it basically is the scene of the resurrection of Osiris. The Assyrian is at this structure. I don't have a picture of it, Jocelyn, but it really is. They closed it. It was just a couple years ago. Now, it was never open to the public, but you were able to walk down the steps and see it from above. And we usually, we were able to get in. I got in many times over the years. But I think it was in 2018, so that's 5 years ago, they closed it to the public entirely. You can only stand way up on the, way out of the structure and try and get a good picture of it. So we get a private, when I tour with Jocelyn and a few other people, we actually pay for a private experience, which gives us 2 full hours of private time. And Jocelyn is just wonderful here because she does she does play the sound bowl for us if she can. We have meditations and the energy there. This structure is so ancient. This is a pre-dynastic structure. Hakeem said it could be tens of thousands of years old, but it's subterranean. It's lower than the temple of the Seti I. It's much lower, and then underneath they've done the satellite imagery, and it goes down. Some believe that the structure itself could have been 10 stories. That's hard to imagine, and I can't confirm that. But it sits over, this was a study done by university professor here, actually, along with some people from America who I know. They did a study on the water and the water levels in the area and underneath the Osirian. And it sits on an ancient pocket of water that really is primordial water. It's in a pocket that doesn't move. And these are very special places on the earth that hold a very powerful energy. And so that's all I'm going to say, but yeah, it's an experience that is, again, unforgettable.
I have a photo of the Osirian that I could show if that would
definitely.
I have actually a couple, so you can see the from above and would you mind clicking on stop share, Patricia?
Not a problem.
My share, there we go. Okay. That was me in 2021, standing above the Osirian. That's, you can see how far down it is. So this ground level here is the ground level of Abydos temple, which was built in approximately 1500 BC, 1300 BC, somewhere in that range. And this is what, 40 feet below that. I mean, this is so ancient. It's incredible. And there are like below that, as Patricia said. And yeah, it's so powerful. I'll share, for some reason, all the photos of the Osirian have me in them that I don't have it on screen, but here's another one. So you can see just the size of these stones once you're in there.
I took that picture.
You did, yes.
I did.
So it's just massive, and you can see it's these the pie columns, the pie doorways, right? So it's an incredibly powerful place.
And inside there are the flowers of life that were etched, probably by a Greek school of philosophy nearby. But, yeah.
Yes. Well, I'll share the website for our just the web page. And actually, I'll put that in the chat here on Zoom too, so everybody can check it out at their own pace if they would like to. But I'll also put it up on the screen. So you can come here to see more information about our tour, Egypt, Awakening Our Infinite Potentials. And here's a beautiful banner that shows all these different amazing places that we will visit. And I think there's probably even more than what's shown on there. And we're going to Esna this year, which I'm so excited about. And so if you scroll down, you can read more about it. Am I on the White Desert page?
No, that's just an announcement about it, the extension.
Okay. Well, and that's important too. So this is an optional add-on to go to a White Desert healing retreat, where I will be there with you, and we will be out in the desert under these incredible skies. I mean, you go out there, you're so far away from any cell phone towers, far away from any Wi-Fi. It's so natural. It's so healing. It's amazing. And you see these incredible places. This is a picture from the White Desert. I'm sure there's another page that I'll put that link in the chat too, that has more about that White Desert healing retreat. These are just incredible, life-changing experiences, everybody. You don't want to miss it. For some reason, I'm not finding the chat. Where did it go? There it is. Okay, so here's the link to the White Desert Healing Retreat. And on the YouTube video, we will post all of these links below the video as soon as we're done recording. But you can come here to the first link and check out the full tour itinerary. Again, it's from January 23rd to February 5th. We chose these dates very specifically because of the astrology of these days. These are going to be days when we have incredible trines happening between Mars, Venus, and Mercury in Capricorn, and Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. And just really harmonic energy, and so much support for like breakthroughs, revelations, incredible, powerful meditation experiences. It's all going to be really supported as we're there. So there's more on this page about the astrology. If you scroll down a little bit, you can read about that in detail. And yeah, here's some testimonials from our March 2023 tour, where we had such an incredible experience. And the people who come from Sacred Planet and from Patricia's audience are just the most incredible people. So just know that you will be with a group of like-minded, amazing souls who are there for the right reasons and there with their full-hearted, energy and engagement. It's just so powerful. It's even more powerful when we come together in these groups that are just so, just there for the most wonderful reasons. And you can see, you can read through here and see how our tour goes. Is there anything you want to say about the itinerary, Patricia? Anything that people should know?
Well, Stephanie just asked the size of the group, and it should probably be around 30 people, maybe 40, but around 30 people. It's a really nice group. We'll all be on one bus. And, the bonding that happens with our groups is incredible as well. But it's in front of us. We go to Saqqara, the Wanis Pyramid, the Step Pyramid, Sound Healing Hospital, the Serapeum. We didn't talk about that. An underground, basically another subterranean structure with megalithic boxes, that weigh up to 100 tons, with lids that weigh up to 40 tons. So these huge structures. And I'm not going to give away anything now, but, we'll talk about what they could have been used for. Yeah, I've got lots of ideas and theories. And then of course, after we do all of that, the Valley Temple, the Giza Plateau, we fly to Luxor and we go to Luxor Temple at night, one of the temples at night. There's a wonderful portal in Luxor Temple. And then we go to Abydos. And unlike other tours, we don't go to Abydos and Dendera in the same day, because both Jocelyn and I can't even imagine trying to do them both in one day. But
a day at each, yes.
it just can't be done. So we spend a whole day at Abydos, and then we spend a whole day at Dendera, which we've already talked about is just spectacular. And then we go to Esna, and again, an incredible experience. We go to Nefertari's tomb. It was just opened about, I think it was about 5 years ago too, to the public. It used to be that you had to pay thousands and thousands of dollars to get into her tomb. It's probably the most spectacular tomb, and it's in the Valley of the Queens, but in both valleys, Valley of the Kings and Queens, and the symbolism and the beautiful illustrations on the walls of the tomb are just incredible, brilliant. So that's an amazing day. Karnak Temple, Sekhmet. Karnak, gosh, you'd need a week to truly experience Karnak, but we do it in a day. And then we get on the cruise ship. And we're going to be on a wonderful boat this time, the Sinista Nile Goddess. So yeah, it's going to be, the cruise is when we finally, get to relax a little bit, at least in the evenings. And you get to experience the Nile, which, as you're cruising down the Nile and you're looking at the banks of the Nile, and sometimes you're seeing farm life like it was, thousands of years ago. It's a surreal experience. And then we get to go to the temples along the Nile. Edfu, oh my gosh, Edfu, we'll talk about Atlantis, the building text, the original, Edfu was thought to be the mound that emerges after, the water recedes from the floods. It's Atlantis. It's the beginning of everything. It speaks to the cycles. It speaks to everything at the beginning. Again, every end is a new beginning. And then we go to Kamambo, a place for healing. So gosh, so much. Every people ask me, what's your favorite place in Egypt? And it does have to be Dendera, but it literally is the temple that I'm in any given moment, because each and every structure offers something incredible. And people sometimes say, at the end of the tour, so many places, so many temples, and I confuse them, maybe you should eliminate some. And I just smile at them and say, okay, which one would you want to give up? Oh no, not that one. It's just, you can't. Each one is so unique and special. And the Temple of Isis and Philae. We go to a beautiful Nubian restaurant for authentic Nubian food on an island that faces you. It's Biga Island, a very sacred, feminine, ancient, beautiful island that we were never allowed on before. And now all of a sudden, this wonderful little Nubian hotel and restaurant appeared, and we're allowed to dock and get on the island. And we have this amazing Nubian, authentic Nubian lunch as we're facing, the structure we were just at, Philae Temple, across the waters. That again is just a beautiful, beautiful experience. So yeah, it is incredible. And the Grand Egyptian Museum, the gem, we have been waiting with bated breath for this opening for years now, that they keep promising. The latest date I heard was November or the beginning of the year. So fingers crossed. But I always say, don't hold your breath because you might turn blue. So let's just hope.
But if we can't see that one, there's the other amazing, beautiful one.
Exactly.
So it's all good.
Well, the Cairo Museum, there is so much there. You can't really experience it in a day or a couple of days. I've been there for more than 6, 7 hours, and it's just so intense, and it's so eclectic with so many things from all the different sites that you don't miss anything. I know the Grand Egyptian Museum is going to be a spectacular experience, but so is the Cairo Museum, and they haven't taken everything yet. So yeah.
Yes. And then once we're all charged up from all of that and from visiting every temple, we get to go inside the Great Pyramid.
Yes, for the private. Most definitely the highlight. Everything every day is a highlight. But that pyramid entry is again, it's a moment to experience the resonance on the power within the pyramid.
Yes.
Really, really just surreal.
Yes. And you can see here, I won't read this now, but why we chose these dates. So here's an astrology report for our time, including the full moon in Leo, which is very interesting because as we're speaking about this, we're about to have the new moon in Leo in just a few days on August 16th. So this will be the 6-month by the lunar cycle, completion of that. So that's really powerful. So you can read and see all of the amazing things that will be happening astrologically while we're there. And then if you would like to register, just go all the way to the bottom. I won't scroll, I won't boggle your eyes on the screen here, but if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see there's a registration form that you fill out and send in. And once Patricia and her team receive your registration form, then they'll send you the info to make the deposit. So that this is something that has caused a little bit of confusion. So just so you all know, send in the registration form. You don't have to put the deposit in at the same time as the form. You'll get the instructions to do the deposit the very next step. So yeah, those are some key things to know. And we would just love to have you join us as we're looking at the beautiful blue lotus flowers here. Would love to have you join us if you feel called. It's a beyond words incredible experience. So we really welcome those who feel it's the right time, and Egypt is calling at this time so strongly. Really amazing. Yeah, I guess do we have time to take a few questions, Patricia?
I have time if you do.
Okay, I can stay on till probably another 10 minutes till about 45 past the hour.
Perfect. That's perfect.
If we can. So yeah, if anybody has questions, either if you're over on YouTube, you can put them in the YouTube live chat. If you have questions on Zoom, you can put them here and I will look for your questions and read them. I think there were some earlier and some beautiful comments. Thank you, Michelle, for your wonderful comment here about attending in March. Great to have you on the call, Michelle. And I know Lynn had a beautiful comment about March 2023 as well. So thank you guys for your comments and your sharing your experiences. Sharon asked, what is the weather like in January and February? Is it the raining season?
Well, here we go. I could bring up climate change. Things are changing so rapidly everywhere on the planet. So, since I've been here, we've had Januaries that were warm. We've had Januaries that were really colder than normal. What I recommend to people is that, you bring a warm jacket, a sweater, and layer your clothes, because in January, the sun is still going to be warm. It's still going to be hot. Our cooler months are the end of December, January, and February, but we've had heat waves at these times as well. So layer your clothes so that at certain times of the day, you may take, your sweater off, but you might need a light jacket, and especially in the north. You'll need a jacket or a sweater. And like I said, light. It's really spectacular weather. And it does not rain often here. So if we do get rain, normally it just happens really fast and it's over and done with. But, I'm not going to promise that, because we had a cloud burst in October last year, which, it never rains in October. So yeah, just come with no expectations, come prepared, bring good walking shoes. You can wear sandals in a lot of the temples. And we let you know every day, Jocelyn and I control the mics at the front of the bus, so we keep you informed of what to expect, at any given moment. At nights will be cooler. So on the cruise, definitely bring warm clothes. Bring bring some warm jammies too, because it's going to be a lot cooler at the nights for sure.
And it can be really hot during the day too, so be prepared for all of that. Some of the days, even in January and February, could be really hot. The sun in Egypt is like nowhere else too. It's just, especially if you're coming from a colder climate and then you're going in January to Egypt. Oh, it's just so amazing to receive the sun in Egypt.
You're right, Jocelyn. It is a different sun. It's the one place in the world I don't burn when I go out in the sun here. Fair-skinned people will always burn. So, bring your suntan lotion for sure, or your sunblock protective lotions. But the sun is very different here for some reason. It must be the angle that it hits the earth. But
yes, yeah, it's really special. It really is. Valerie had a question, and I think she might be referring to what we experienced at the healing hospital. Do you have any suggestions on how to connect to the heartbeat of the earth in our home places? Like how to connect in with that from where we are?
Again, I think, I would actually leave the home and find a place in nature, even if it's a city park, and leave your cell phone in the car or at home, any technology, and find a space within nature to meditate and connect with all the energies, the natural energies that surround you. And I think, that is that moment that once you connect with the rhythm of the nature around you, you are connecting to the heartbeat, and maybe you'll begin to even feel and or hear it. So, yeah.
Yes, beautiful. There's a question from Stephen. He's asking, are we saying that the Neteru are more archetypal nature energies rather than actual beings, especially since they have morphed over time?
Absolutely, and that's a good observation, Stephen. The Neteru are forces of nature, and I even would say that at one time we were the gods that walked the earth, because we had access, we had a connection to all these natural forces of nature. We are, as human beings, a force of nature, and we contain the Neteru within us. They say our outer world is an illusion, and everything that's occurring is happening within. We are the Neteru. We have that connection to source. We just forgot because we're held hostage in a belief that we're physical beings. So it's letting go of that. So yes, over time, as we evolve, we begin to attach personalities, and we say, oh, Osiris was the god of, because he's everything that we can't really connect with or perceive anymore. But at one time, he was representative of man, of everyone, mankind itself. He was the earth, he was mankind, and his journey was the journey of all of us. So when he talked about his journey into the night cycle and then his death and resurrection, they're speaking about mankind. The earth itself goes through these cycles. The sun even gets old. It's described as getting old, and it's reborn again. And if we look at the cycles of the sun, these things happen. The science proves this, but we need a marriage of science and spirituality to truly understand our experience. And this is what the ancients taught us.
Yes, so beautiful. And Patricia just expresses all of this in the most incredible mind-altering way. So I just want to thank you for all that you bring, Patricia, and all the depth of studying and research that you've done over the years. It's really incredible to stand in these temples with you and receive these wisdom transmissions from you. It's just
I'm gonna cry. No, thank you so much, Jocelyn. Sweet. And I'm not just saying this because you said something and complimented me, but Jocelyn, what she brings to these experiences is something so beautiful. She is so heart-centered, and she brings this into her meditations and into, even, her singing bowl when she conducts really these meditations, she pulls all of us into these experiences in such a beautiful way that we're able to let go of ourselves and literally follow her into these wonderful, beautiful, surreal moments within these structures. And that is, I'll run around and show you all these wonderful things in the temples and tell you what they mean. But the moments that you connect to the temples, the moments that you just let all of everything in your mind, all your core beliefs, let it all go, and you just feel, these are the most really significant moments that you'll have here.
Yes. Yes, truly. The feeling we have to really leave the mind behind at a certain point on these journeys, and really receive it in the heart and receive it in our deeper senses of knowing, because there's only so much that the mind can grasp. And this is beyond that, it really, really is. So we've received so much beyond what we can possibly comprehend on these adventures. It's really amazing. Thank you for your kind words too, Patricia. Yeah, I'll go to one more question here in the chat, and I can speak to this one. Kate is saying, are there any crystals or particular rituals that you would recommend for embracing the potency of the current Lion's Gate portal? And Patricia, you may have something to say about this too. I would say, Kate, this is a powerful portal that we're in to receive those transmissions and those codes from Sirius and the sun, as they are so beautifully aligned. So I see a wonderful flow here of allowing, being out in nature, allowing those codes to come in, those insights. Really pay attention to your dreams during this time. Definitely crystals, quartz crystals. It's coming into my mind, kyanite crystals could be really powerful to work with during this time. And let yourself receive all those transmissions. And then on August 16th, which is going to be the new moon in Leo, you can take all of that and set your intentions and really open your heart and ask the universe for what you truly need, what you truly desire to bring into your life, and let it be informed by all that you've received here in the Lion's Gate, to begin. So that would be my thought about it. I hope that's helpful.
Now, I would only add that a remembrance that the crystals themselves are not just beautiful rocks, but they're knowledge holders. And they are beings that you can, crystals are always growing, they're alive. They just look like they're not moving, but that's only because of how we would define movement and knowing. But if we let go again of that, our beliefs, we can actually communicate with them. And so, you're asking us, but ask your crystals, connect with them. Again, let go of everything around you and make that personal connection. And, it's amazing. People, I work with a geologist because I think it's very important, the knowledge that she holds. And, she's mainstream and, she used to be, she's spent too much time with me now. Just teasing. But she admits that she's always spoken to rocks, that rocks talk to her. And, the same thing has always happened to me. Trees talk to me, rocks talk to me. It's letting go of those beliefs that they're not sentient beings. And when we do that, amazing things happen. Again, it's connecting, it's utilizing our right brains just a little bit more and allowing ourselves to feel our connectedness. There was a time the plants would tell us, what they could do for us. And this is how plant medicine emerges and evolves. They let us know what they could do for us. We spoke with the animals and they spoke back, not with words, not written in oral language, but we had a knowing, and we have that today. And I think that's something that's awakening today. Aquarius is the water bearer, and he's the water bearer that dumps the water, the spirit, the life force out of the container we're out of the net. We're leaving the net now. So it is this moment when we can awaken these senses within us. And it's a good time to take that opportunity right in this now moment.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for saying that. It's so important. So important. We are in such profound communication with all of these other beings at every moment. And it makes me think of a part of the White Desert tour. Actually, if you do the White Desert healing retreat after the main tour, we go to the Crystal Mountain. And this is a place where you can see these crystals, you can actually almost see them growing, like they're coming up out of the land, and you can lay on this crystal mountain. I mean, you can just let your whole body connect with these crystals, and it's incredible. That is a really powerful place. You can go inside of a cave there that's all, you're surrounded by the crystals, and oh my goodness, it's amazing. So
Crystal Cave, who would have thought? It really does exist.
you can find it in Egypt. Yes. Okay. Well, I think we will close for today, everybody. I did just put that link, the main link to the tour, in the chat again, and let me put the link to the White Desert healing retreat in the chat one more time. And these will be posted right below the YouTube video very soon here as well. So check those out. Let us know if you have any questions. You can write to me, you can write to Patricia and her team. We will get back to you right away. Just let us know if you need anything else in order to decide if you're able to join us. And we would love to have you come along this year. It's going to be a powerful time.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, Patricia. It's been so wonderful, as always, to be here with you and share with you.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
And much love to everybody out there. And yeah, watch this again. There's so much, especially shared. Watch it again. Enjoy. We hope you all got received so much from this today. So lots of love to all of you, and we'll see you again sometime soon.